Welcome to Wellbeing with Manny in conversation with. What we hear and listen to throughout our day can shape how we feel. If we feed and nourish our soul with wholesome conversations from everyday people, filled with positive stories, we may feel less alone and even inspired. We're all working through our own stuff, and sometimes you need to hear that you are doing amazing, which you are. Wellbeing with Manny in conversation with is listening to others talk about how they have journeyed life so far, how they keep their well-being in check, and how they keep their mindset positive. This is not always possible, but sometimes they share some really good tips on how they improve their well-being just for those days when they're not feeling quite the ticket. Welcome to this Wellbeing with Manny in conversation with community. I really just wanted to build something special that people can feel part of, feel seen, and feel valued. Some of the people we speak to have really inspirational stories, and hopefully it can resonate with you, make you stop, reflect, and also just pick up some top tips along the way. So thank you again for being here, and thanks for sharing your time with us. Here's the show. Hi everyone, just jumping in to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this series of Wellbeing with Manny in conversation with, and that's the amazing IA Hair and Beauty. Now, I don't know about you, but as someone who has a very busy life with lots going on, an hour hair or beauty appointment can feel like a real treat, an absolute essential, non-negotiable bit of self-care. Sometimes I know that all I need is a fresh French manicure to make me feel a bit brighter. I don't think we should underestimate these little acts of kindness and the impact that they have in our busy lives. So we have a special treat for you, a 15% one-time code across all the IA Hair and Beauty range. So if that's a gel polish or beautiful nail art, and you just need to jump over to Instagram to see the amazing nail art that Isabel does, or a fresh new trim or colour, then IA Hair and Beauty is the best. Go to IA Hair and Beauty on Instagram or Facebook and DM Isabel quoting the podcast for your 15% off treat. Enjoy! Welcome back to Wellbeing with Manny in conversation with, and today, as you will see, we are with a live guest from the living room, from the new sofa. I was really excited to invite the next guest onto the channel because we live in the same place. Therefore, we just thought it'd be so nice to get away from Zoom and to do it face to face. So we welcome to the channel Ellen Murray. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
It's so good to have you here. So Ellen, do you want to just introduce yourself and what it is that you do?
Yeah. So I'm Ellen Murray. I'm a mindset and empowerment coach for high achieving women who are overwhelmed, on the brink of burnout. I help them to work on prioritising their own well-being and overcoming things like self-doubt, perfectionism, people-pleasing, and ultimately growing their self-worth.
Amazing all the stuff that we want to hear about on the channel. So we'll start as I always do. So I always ask everyone, what does well-being mean to you?
Oh, great question. For me, true well-being means looking after the emotional part, the mental part, the physical part, and the soul. So when you combine the four things together and you're looking after them all, they're in alignment, you feel connected to all four areas. For me, that's true well-being.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So you've got a really amazing inspirational story to tell. I think, and I know everybody at home will think so as well. So just tell us a little bit about you and what you used to do, and then the big kind of seismic shift that happened that has led you to where you are today.
Yeah, so for the last 10 years, up until 2020, I had a fitness and nutrition business. So it was, it started off just a really small me starting out as teaching a few classes, and it grew to a level I could never have expected. We were across Merseyside in like 5 different locations. We had 400 members, but over the years we'd had thousands of women come through the programs, team of like 10 staff, just like a really, successful business. I absolutely loved what I did. I was very driven to help people. That's always been my main driver with it. And then it all changed in 2020 during the pandemic. So like a lot of fitness businesses, we went straight online, which was fine. But as you know, I've got 2 little kids, and at the time they were just 1 and just 3, so really little. And trying to get this online, manage the team, be really present for the members, as well as being there for my family. When you've got little kids, it's a full-time job, isn't it? You can't even leave them for like 10 minutes.
No. All the parents out there are going, yep, I remember lockdown.
I mean, how did everybody do it?
Yeah, it's mad.
So I definitely felt the pressure of that during lockdown, but we were all just getting through, weren't we? But I think subconsciously I must have been really, really stressed out. My body was definitely giving me signs, and it had been for the previous year, even before lockdown. I'd gone back to work quite quickly after having my second child. And I was feeling exhausted all the time, which again, you put it down to having 2 young kids, running a business. This is what we are. Every month I was getting like really sore throat, mouthful of ulcers, and I just look at it and think, come on, get on with it. Like, you're running a business, you've got kids, just get on with it. Show up, be on stage dancing, teaching me dance fitness. But I was loving it. It was just my body wasn't loving it. And this went on for months and months and months. And every time I'd take a little bit of time off, like a holiday, I'd always get tonsillitis. And you hear a lot of teachers do that, don't you? It's like you've been running on this adrenaline, this cortisol, and then as soon as you give yourself permission, it's like your body just brings out all, and then that kept happening. And then in 2020, the June, so a couple of months in lockdown, I got the usual sore throat, ulcers, and I was like, I can't take time off. I've got too much to do. But and your body just forces you. And I remember laying in bed, feeling guilty because obviously, my husband's doing everything with the kids.
And that's what we do.
The guilt. The mum guilt.
The mum guilt.
And I remember messaging one of my clients, my boot campus, she's a nurse, and, we had a great relationship with all my members. And saying to her, like, do you think I need antibiotics? And she said, send me a picture of your throat. So my phone.
Camera in your mouth.
What am I doing? And she's like, it looks viral. She said, you just need rest. And I remember so clearly saying, I can't rest. I've got 2 little kids, I've got a business, I can't rest. And that was my mentality. It always was, always have been. And that for me is like a pivotal moment where, if only I could go back and go, Ellen, listen to what you need. Nothing is worth trying to, your body is so clever. And after that, I never got better. I thought, it's just taking a while this virus is lingering. But 8 weeks down the line, I was still, like I was telling you, I'd had a staff meeting, like a 2-hour meeting one day, and I was in bed for like 6 hours after it, and then went to bed at the night time. It was like any level of exertion I did would have a big payback. And for me, it was like a million miles an hour, and always energetic. My job was teaching people, fitness and positive and, healthy lifestyle. For me, that was like, whoa, what is this? Like, I'm used to being the energetic person who can do everything. And this went on and on. So I finally took some time off work in 2020. First time ever switching everything off. Even after having the kids, I never gave myself that permission to switch off. And it was during that month I had these like realizations that actually this isn't working for me anymore. Like, my body is crying. It gets like, your body whispers at you for a while, but it was screaming. And it was just then I realized, like, I can't do this anymore, which was heartbreaking, because when you do something you love, it becomes part of you. It's your identity, isn't it? Especially when it's something like dance or fitness, from your work, it's a big part of who you are. But I ended up making the decision at that point that I was going to close the business, which, you know, had all the staff, full-time staff, all the women.
And for people who aren't from round here, I mean, your name was synonymous with the place where we live. You know, everybody really knew you. You know, and I you know, for people that don't know, I went to a few of the dance classes, especially the Glow Fits, which I absolutely loved. And you were incredible. Everybody said so.
Aww.
And it must have, well, it's true, but also just for people who don't know, you know, who aren't from here, you know, it's everybody knew who you were. And if you were feeling like you wanted to get a bit more on a fitness drive or whatever, that's who you contacted, you know. So, you know, obviously jump back into your story, but I just wanted to highlight that for everyone, that this is huge. You know, you've grown this business from nothing to having 10 staff, to having full programs, having loads of people, you know.
Well, I mean,
it
was a
results.
multi-six-figure business, you know, which I could never have dreamed of, you know. That wasn't ever the drive with it, but it, you know, it did grow to, I look back and think, how did I do that? You know, but it was all very passion driven. It was very intense passion though. And that can only go on for so long, that intense passion, until it's, you know, got to be some balance, hasn't there? But
absolutely,
at that level for so long. So it was a big thing, and obviously lockdown had affected the business, but you know, the passion I had, I knew I could have built it back up, but my body was like, no way you're doing that. It was like the universe stepped in and was like, you can't, this isn't for you anymore, like it's not healthy anymore. And luckily I've always been quite a spiritual person, because I've needed it the last 2 years to get through these changes. Like, I knew there must have been a deeper reason for me not being able to do what I'd always done, because my body just would not let me try and do it, and then I'd be ill for days. And it was like, what am I going to do? So I'd always had this passion for helping people with feel good in themselves, and I just used the method of fitness, nutrition, and I thought, no, this is the time now to really go that deeper level and work with mindset. So I had this plan that I would move into the coaching space, and I closed the business and had this plan, but my body, again, it was like, it wasn't just physical, it was cognitive, like any too much like cognitive energy and I'd be ill. And I finally, after loads of tests and everything, got to the bottom of it, and it was a chronic illness. It was ME, so it's called ME, or chronic fatigue syndrome. But like, I don't think that does it justice, really. It's not just tiredness. It's like, it's basically when your body, you've been working in fight or flight for so long, you know, the adrenaline, the cortisol, it's like a handbrake goes on in your body, and it's like, no, you can't do this anymore. So like, it gives you physical symptoms. So mine's always throat, swollen glands. I've just been to Disney, I've come back with like massive glands because I've got around Disney. And it's basically a way of your body saying, you can't do this anymore, but it is chronic. So after that diagnosis, it was like my whole world fell apart at that point. It was, the doctors were like, I don't think you'll probably ever work again. You definitely won't do physical stuff, but whether you'll be able to work, this is you now. That was what they said.
And that's so huge for someone who has spent all of their lives doing, you know, being a professional dancer, but then moving into the fitness world. Everything you did was physical. How at that, I mean, you know, at that moment, how did you, what were you feeling, if you can share?
I just remember being in our one of the rooms downstairs, and like lying on the floor looking at the sunshine, like coming in thinking, what is happening? Like, you know, like
disbelief.
One of those moments, it's like everything around you is breaking down, and you just like lay there thinking like, what the fuck? But I almost felt quite serene, like, if that's the right word, serene, like just calm about it. But like, there were points where I was literally breaking down. Like, I think mentally I really did struggle with it. But I did always have that faith that there was a reason behind it. I
Yeah.
was going through hell, but there was a reason.
Yeah.
And also being the kind of person I am, I was always like, oh, but there's people worse off than you. And I've realised now that doesn't always serve you to be like that.
No,
because
it doesn't.
It diminishes you feeling how you're feeling, and it's valid, you know. But it was also coming to terms with other people not getting it. You know, it took the official diagnosis from the doctor for my husband to go, oh right, so you actually aren't well. And then it's been going on for like 8 months.
Yeah.
Oh right.
Yeah.
And the other people around me going, oh, she's not just a bit depressed or a bit upset about her business. It's like she's actually, you know.
That's it. That's something that strikes me actually, and I've had this conversation a few times with people. Do you think, and I'm not trying to make it gender specific here, but do you think that's a specific female thing, that we just push through whatever, that when we're poorly, it's almost like we have to have something official for it to be valid?
Absolutely, which is really wrong, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think it's so ingrained in us as women to keep going, keep everything together. It's like, you know, it's the way we're made up, isn't it? To look after and nurture, which is a beautiful thing, isn't it?
And we love it.
At the same time, it can be quite detrimental when you're not looking after yourself first. Yeah. And now I'm like completely the opposite. I'm so hot on, you know, prioritizing my well-being. That comes before anything, even the family, which I know people listening might think, oh, but I know that if I don't look after myself, the kids haven't got a mum that's fit and able. So it's selfish for me to not look after myself.
Yeah. I heard someone say the other day a lovely thing, which I really like, which is you can't pour from an empty cup, which I love. And it's so true, isn't it? You know, for so long, we've maybe called self-care or prioritizing ourselves selfish, but it's anything but. You know, I was talking about this with someone the other day. When you make time for yourself, you become more productive, and you can everywhere else, and you have the energy and time for other people, you know, because when you don't have the time to give someone your energy, then you're not giving them what they deserve.
Exactly.
Because when you give someone the time they deserve and you're nourished, meaning you can give them full energy that they deserve, that's when the magic connection happens, isn't it?
Totally. Couldn't agree more with you.
Yeah.
I actually say now to my clients, like, it's actually selfish to not look after yourself. Bit harsh.
Love that. Yeah, we're all about the straight talking here.
And I'm not that straight talking. I'm quite a softly, you know, nurturing, but I am so passionate about that, about the importance of it, because I've been on the side of it where I haven't prioritised myself, and I ended up in a, you know, with a chronic illness. Yeah. And it's nothing's worth that.
Yeah, like, no, it's not.
You know, we think we've got to be the best mum, be the most, you know, achieving our jobs, and you know that's all important, but it's got to be done in a healthy way.
Yeah.
There's no point doing all that if you're feeling shit and got no energy.
Absolutely. And do you think that's one of the main reasons that in your coaching world, your main focus is the high achieving women, because it's so aligned with what you still are, but what you were in your kind of other life, and how you can maybe help balance that better for people?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So many of the women I worked with and me a few years ago, you know, not necessarily business owners, a lot of them are, you know, employed, but kind of managers, and, you know, but definitely the high achieving, the traits, the people pleasers, the push, I just recognise so much of it, and I know I've got the skills and the tools now to really help those people to realise that it doesn't have to be that way.
No.
Like, you can still achieve what you want to achieve, but when it's coming from this like healthier place and of prioritising your well-being, everything's just better. Like, you're not operating out of fear anymore.
No.
I mean, the work I do does go quite deep, you know, in peeling back a lot of layers to why we're operating this way, so then you can build more like positive foundations.
Yeah.
And, you know, so much of it goes back to how we've been wired for a long time, from beliefs from childhood.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Has there been some common themes as to why people do operate like that? Why do we almost like drive and drive and drive and drive and drive without taking time for ourselves? Is there something that's come up about? Is there a common theme? Is it a lot to do with our environment, our childhood? Where would you say?
So many clients of mine, and looking at myself, it goes back to like certain needs not being met in childhood. So a lot of my clients have been through therapy. I went through it myself. And just realised like certain needs weren't met, so you try to meet them yourself. It's like the subconscious is driving it, even though the logical part of you knows, you know, I don't need to do this, but there's always this subconscious drive of you need to do more, you need to be more. Most people, it comes down to not feeling enough. I always say there's 4 key things that people are always working from: either not feeling enough, fear of not being enough, that's one, same one. Fear of being judged, fear of being abandoned, that's a big one, and fear of failure or success. So there's like 4 that kind of run through everybody. Most of the women I work with comes down to fear of not being enough and fear of rejection or abandonment.
And that aligns really well as well with the performance world. You know, all of that happens all the time with performers and creatives. Kind of obviously the feeling of being judged is a huge one.
I bet it is.
And especially with kind of young people training as well, just that fear of being judged and fear of not being enough. And I suppose the abandonment can kind of maybe fall into rejection as well, which is obviously something that creatives have to deal with all the time. It's something that has to become part of their lives with an auditioning world.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I really I'm really interested by the kind of where this not enough comes from. It just seems to be so, you know, a kind of phrase that is bandied about so much now. And I wonder what more we can all be doing to kind of improve our own levels of self-worth and self-esteem. I wonder if you can share with us some of the things that maybe you work with your clients to obviously help people who are listening and watching, things that maybe practical things that they can put into everyday use to help with that, you know, those feelings.
I'd say probably the first thing is creating that awareness of what is underlying, like what is that limiting belief there, like that's making you feel the way you feel. So is it that I'm not enough? And once you know that, then it's like, well, what do I want that belief to be? So I work through like a few exercises and tools on transforming these beliefs into more empowering ones. And the first step of it is just like throwing doubt on this belief. Like, is it actually true? What's strange about it? Has it always been true? And really like asking yourself, because when it's just like doing this underneath, you just programmed to think it's true, whatever you tell your brain it believes. When you start throwing a bit of doubt on it, and it's like, oh, thinking of just being curious, what else could I believe about myself? But then, you know, so many people say things like affirmations and things. I mean, it's not something I do a lot, affirmations, but I do think there's a lot of power in it. But creating time and space for yourself is huge. Like that often gives you answers, and you have these moments of like realization when you've got that time and space, and it's like, actually I don't need to operate in this way. Actually this is much more peaceful. Like
absolutely.
So I always start with like addressing practical things by like daily habits, like what are you doing each day that's going to give you that time and space to connect with yourself. So much of it is external, isn't it? That, you know, as soon as people get up, it's on the phones, and you know, like from the start of your day, it's like input, and it's like, actually we need some time to like output and have no input.
I heard something the other day that I thought was really interesting. I can't remember, apologies, I can't remember who it was, but they were saying that some of the problems that she was having in her family was that her older teenagers were like overstimulated, too much going on. So she took everything away, or they both took everything away from them. And they were just sitting there going, I'm bored. And she's like, that's good. That's good. Because from boredom breeds creativity, new ideas. But like you say, when we are so overstimulated, it's kind of, it almost feels like the brain, even though it's just so incredible, was never made to have such overload, such input.
No.
And also our eyes, like I feel like the eyes I feel sorry for. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of people talk about shutting off your devices an hour before bed. That's brilliant if you can do it. I mean, there's so many people I know that just can't. But that level of intake, it's the modern day world is just not, it's not feeding us the right kind of levels of care, is it? With all that.
I think it's like your environment. We haven't got the environment we need, have we, with technology? So it's making that conscious choice. It's becoming more conscious, isn't it, of the choices you make? So like turning your devices off and not having them straight away, and like it takes a lot of discipline to do that, doesn't it?
Yeah. The discipline and commitment is the thing. And I often find that if I don't say something out loud or I don't write it down, I won't stick to it. So that's something that I think is a really good thing, is that if you want to make some changes, write them down somewhere or say them out loud to someone. And I don't know if everybody likes this approach, but I like to be accountable to something.
Absolutely.
Because if I'm not, I'm wild on my own. Don't be wild like me, people. I quite like being accountable. I know my friend Johnny, who avid listeners will know, was on the last series, episode 3, who does the personal training and nutrition. When I'd had my second child and I wanted to just kind of get back to where I was, he would often say to me, if you need me, to be that person, I'll be that person. So I would sometimes just message him, and it just felt nice to have somebody to be accountable to. And again, that doesn't work for everybody, but for me, I almost need someone to walk with me. Which is why I like coaches, because that's kind of what coaches do. They walk alongside
power,
you,
isn't it, of holding your hand and getting you there. Ultimately it's you doing the work, but it's having that support, isn't it? And
absolutely.
Like my sessions, I do always create at the end of it, we have about 5 to 10 minutes where we create these action steps that I'll hold them accountable for the next session, or checking in between. And they always say like that accountability is huge. A lot of people like it, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. Because I do think, a lot of us, we're really well intentioned and we want to do certain things, but sometimes the following through with it is tricky. I've heard a few people say, if you want to do a 10-minute yoga session in a morning, get your yoga mat out the night before, lay your clothes out in the morning, so you haven't got that tiny stumble of, I need to get the mat out, I need to get my clothes out. It's all there for you, like almost making life as easy as possible to live happier and more productively. You can make it easier for yourself by doing those kinds of things.
Definitely. But sometimes doing the stuff that's good for you, that's going to help you, you do face a bit of discomfort actually doing it, because it is comfortable to do like the stuff that's not good for you, isn't it? To scroll your phone or sit and watch Netflix. It's comfortable.
It is. So for anyone who's listening who is kind of feeling like they're ready to take some changes, some steps, what would you say are some really kind of small things, small changes that people could do every day just to start to improve maybe their relationship with themselves, relationship with other people, just starting to get their mindset into just a better space, creating more space for themselves?
I would say being intentional, so doing some journaling in the morning, in the evening, and getting really intentional with your day. And by that I mean like your physical tasks, what you want to do, but how you want to feel in that day as well. So setting that intention of how I want to feel this day and what you're going to do in order to create that feeling. So I always say feelings are created, unless, you know, we create anxiety ourselves, we create happiness by doing the things that make us happy. So if you in each day have something that gives you the feeling you want, then the more you do that, the more like you're building on that. The more you do it, the more it feels good, so you'll do more of it, and it just creates that momentum. But I would say, just, you know, especially the women I work with, very all or nothing. Don't feel like you have to do it all straight away. Just think of like every little step you take each day, it's like that compound effect. So if you just literally started doing your morning journaling, evening journaling, like reflecting on your day, what's gone well, what you've done well, what your wins were, it's like all these little things create evidence in your brain that actually, I'm doing all right.
Good.
Because our brains are always wired to what could have been better, what I've done wrong. It's just the ego trying to keep us safe. So by giving it this evidence, it's like it's strengthening that belief in yourself and that self-worth.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've had a couple of people mention journaling, and I think it's a brilliant thing to do. And I really like the setting kind of that intention for the day, and also at the end of the day kind of reflecting on it. And do you think it's a good thing to do, to reflect kind of, you know, I don't like using the phrases good and bad, but if you've perhaps set some intentions for the day, it hasn't quite gone your way, it hasn't quite been the day that you wanted, how do you deal with a day that's not quite gone the way that you want? If you're maybe journaling at the end of the day, or just having a moment of reflection, how is it? What's your view on if it's not been the greatest?
I think that's such a great point and a great question. In my journaling, I have prompts in mine. I mean, I just find them, if I'm tired, it's like it's there done for you, you know.
Again, like the yoga mat.
And one of my questions is always like, what didn't go as well as I'd liked it to, or what didn't go as planned. So I'd like literally write that, and then how would I handle that better next time, knowing what I know now. So nice. It's like, it's acknowledging it, but it's almost like then looking forward in how can I do it better, or reframe. If it happened again, reframe. So it's not all about like positive. It's like acknowledging that, because there always will be good stuff, bad stuff. It's life, isn't it? You know, and there will be days that are shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
When we can reflect on them and learn from them and notice the good in it, that's when it's like your mindset gets stronger.
And that really aligns with one of your 4 principles as well, about the whole what if I fail, or, you know, what if I succeed even. You know, because I think I've talked a bit in the past about failure and success really living in the same place, and actually when we fail, it tells us something, we learn something, and we get another step on the ladder towards maybe that success. And then, you know, with that level of learning, we grow, don't we? And that's absolutely really important. But I love leaning into that. So when something's not gone quite so well, why? What can we learn? Always look for the lessons of what we can learn. I really like that kind of view.
And actually, a guy I've worked with a few times now, he's amazing. He's called Paul Mort, if you want to check him out. He's the most straight talking coach. He's from Newcastle, Georgia. He swears all the time, but I love that masculine energy. It's like quite soft and feminine, you know. It's and he posted something yesterday saying like every successful person has failed like lots of times. To get to that level of success, you've got to fail. And it's so true, isn't it? Whereas so many of us are scared of failing, me included, you know, and it's like it's so ingrained in us, but actually sometimes you're failing by not trying as well.
Well, this is it. This goes right back to the circular life of this podcast. I remember having like dreams before I started this of people just like pointing at me in the street and laughing. Because it was like, what are you doing? What is this? And then that spiraled into, well, no one's going to listen anyway. I don't even know why I'm bothering, because it's going to be rubbish. No one's going to listen. And that was what I went through. But actually, and then to actually make a decision on the date that I was going to do it, it wasn't that I was not wanting to do it. It was, I was scared of doing it. But what was I scared of? Was I scared of both the failure and the success? Like, what happens if people do like it and they do listen? And thankfully people are. But it is that funny place of we don't want to fail, but we also are a bit unsure of what happens when we succeed.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how good we are at celebrating and taking it. You know, like you say, celebrate those wins. I love that. You know, what's been your little win of the day? Love that. Somebody mentioned that on an episode a few weeks ago, and I absolutely love that. But we're not great at that, are we? We're not great at saying, look what I did today. Or look what I've created. High five in the mirror. You know, like we're not good at it, are we?
And then, do you know, if you do that 3 a day, though, my 3 wins of the day, by the end of the month, that's like, what is it, 3 times 30?
Yeah.
Like 90 wins. Is that right?
Yeah.
90 wins a month. Like, how amazing.
How amazing.
90 wins a month, over 1,000 wins a year written down.
Yeah.
That is building evidence, isn't it?
That is building evidence. It is. Yeah, that is a very good place to wrap things up. So we expect everybody, in writing 90 wins a month. If you can, you know, we're just suggesting.
Give or take 10%.
Yeah, we'll go 10% either way. But yeah, it's important. And, you know, it's brilliant what you shared, and, you know, going through something like you've been through, which is so huge, but turning it into something that's really purpose driven and, you know, comes from the heart and helps other people because of where you've been is just such an incredible thing to do. So
thank you. But I still have my own fears, like you say as well. But it's when we normalise, it's part of being human, isn't it?
Exactly.
Like when we're doing something new, it is scary. Like,
of course it is.
You know.
Yeah. Normalise feeling the way that we do. You know, do something new and feel like no one's going to like it. You're going to fail. Well, so what? Put it out there anyway. What happens if it goes well?
Yeah.
You know.
I always remember one of my coaches saying at the start of this journey, what happened, because I was going, but what if I don't do well? She went, but what if you do?
Yeah.
And I was like, that is the most powerful question.
So true. Again, I'm hopeless with remembering where I've heard things, but that gorgeous line that someone says, but what if I fail? And they say, but darling, what if you fly?
Yeah, is it Coco Chanel or something
Could
like
be.
that?
We'll check that out and put it in the notes. But yeah, you know, imagine, you know, if we all could think that, if we all stopped, you know, worrying about what if, just do it. And actually, some of the really high achieving people I've listened to have taken that step, and it's totally bombed, but then they've learned. Yeah, and they've regrouped and reframed and built, and then there's something successful. So I do think the failures teach us everything to be able to fly. Anyway,
absolutely.
Helen Murray, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute joy to meet you and talk to you.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I've loved it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on Wellbeing with Manny in Conversation With, and thank you for being part of our community. It really is all for you. It's all purpose driven, and I really hope that you got something from the episode today. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to share it with anyone who you feel would benefit from hearing these open and real conversations. Please make sure that you are following and you are subscribed to make sure you never miss an episode, either on your app of choice or on YouTube. And if you can, please rate and review the channel. That would be so helpful, because it helps other people find us. And finally, just remember that it is all about talking. It is all about sharing. So think, reach out. Who will you have a conversation with? Have a fabulous week. See you next week.